Am I the a-hole for leaving my sister stranded at a restaurant after she brought my dad? I, 30 male, have a complicated history with my dad. I'll call him Jake, and haven't seen him in over 11 years. When I was 13, the biggest family secret came out that ended my parents' marriage and my relationship with him. All thanks to my mom who cheated, got pregnant, and passed me off as his. We all found out, and like a switch went off, Jake wanted nothing to do with me like at all. They got divorced. My older sister was his, so he only fought for custody of her. He was horrible to me when this first came out, like as if it was my fault, and for a long time I did think that. In fact, it took years of therapy to stop feeling like it was all my fault. For a long time after it came out, I did everything to be in Jake's life like he was in my sister's. I never held back telling me looking at me makes him sick, and it was never my dad. Telling this to a 14-year-old. My last attempt was when I was around 18. By then, Jake had gotten remarried. His new wife was pregnant, and I convinced my sister to bring me to the baby shower hoping to talk to him. Big mistake. He flipped on me outside, and it was the most humiliating and hurtful moment of my life. Jake told me to go find my real dad and stop bothering him. That was it for me, and we didn't speak again. Now I get it. He was cheated on, he was hurt, and I'm a reminder of the biggest betrayal of his life. The affair kid. But I was also human with feelings. Took time, but I forgot about him with lots of therapy. Still close with my sister, but she keeps her relationship with him separate from ours. Except for now. He got sick from COVID last year, and I guess that was his come to Jesus moment. Now he's suddenly interested. But for me, the damage is done, and I've turned that chapter in my life. Have my wife and family. A father-in-law who's loved me and treated me like his own for years. So I've denied seeing him. But because now he wants to, my sister keeps trying to set it up. Earlier this week, she tried to surprise me with him at the restaurant where we were having lunch. I got up and left without saying anything to him. I was caught off guard, so the only thing going on in my mind is, I gotta get out. My sister came with me, so that means I was her ride and just left her there. And my sister's really mad about me leaving. His wife dropped him off, and it was gonna be a while for her to come back since she had appointments. But the point is, they ended up being there way longer than expected. On top of that, she got to work late since the plan was for me to drive her back after eating. Not sure if she's actually mad that I left her, or that I didn't stay to eat with Jake. But yeah, she does think I was an a-hole for taking off like that. Not totally sure if I was, since I've made it clear we are done, but at the same time I did leave her without a ride. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. What your sister did was wrong. She should not have sprung him on you after all the trauma he had caused. If she had told you he was coming and you had agreed, then you would have been the a-hole. But you didn't know he was going to be there. That wasn't the plan, and she did not ask if you were comfortable with it. She honestly should have expected you were going to be overwhelmed. I'm sorry you went through that, and I'm glad to hear you have a loving family. She knows I wouldn't have gone at all, so that's why she didn't tell me. It was painful as hell, believe me. I'm just grateful to have found a wonderful family with my wife. Not the a-hole. Your sister is the a-hole here. She's the one you had a present-day ongoing relationship with, and she betrayed your trust. Don't let her talk you into thinking you owed her a ride after the stunt she pulled. As they say, play stupid games, etc., etc. You didn't leave them stranded on the side of the road during a thunderstorm. You left them in a nice restaurant after you were ambushed. They had plenty of time to have a nice meal while waiting for an Uber or something. OP, you panicked and left. You had to have years of therapy to get to a more comfortable place, and good for you for doing the work and marrying well. Your dad may have had a come-to-Jesus moment, but you, OP, you don't have to care. Not a a-hole. Not a a-hole. Proverbial stupid game / prizes moment for your sister. You may want to rethink your relationship with your sister, since she appears to have picked up a lot more of her father's personality and attitudes than you may have previously known. Her reaction was to deflect and blame you for the situation, rather than apologize. A rather telling reflex. You didn't leave her stranded. She tried to manipulate you for her father's sake, not yours. She was late for work because she assumed that you would be easily manipulated into staying, that you were as desperate as you were when you were a teen to have a relationship. Also, her real motive was probably even more selfish. She wanted to be the hero and peacemaker between you and her father, so she could tell everyone how she finally mended the relationship and take social media credit for attention. You owe her father nothing, including an opportunity to apologize or explain. You don't owe him anything. Walking away was not an a-hole move. It was the most polite and reasonable thing you could have done. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my homeless sister a place to stay? My sister's husband left her for someone else. The house they lived in was inherited by him years before she met him, and there was never any mortgage on it. In our jurisdiction, this means it isn't part of the marital property or the divorce process, so she isn't entitled to the house or any of the equity in the divorce. Her husband was able to get a court order to evict her from the homes, and she was lawfully evicted. She will get half of their savings account, but that will all go to her legal fees apparently. She isn't eligible for alimony, he isn't rich, and it's not a factor. I haven't had contact with my sister since 2016. She was the one who cut off contact. She got contact because my husband is a police officer. She doesn't like the police. She's never contacted or spoken to my husband even once. She hated that I was dating a police officer, and when he proposed, she said if I married him, she would never speak to me again. There was no other reason for her not to like him besides his job, but she is the type that posts quotes and statements on social media, but she never does any activism beyond that. That was the last time I saw or heard from her, until she recently showed up at my house asking to stay because her husband left her and had her evicted. Our parents can't take her in because they just moved into a retirement condo community. Only residents can live there, and you have to be over 50. They aren't struggling, but they can't afford to help her after their own rent/fees/bills. When she cut me off, my parents said I should be able to marry whoever I want, but at the same time, I should be sensitive to why my sister is upset and see her point of view. I have no other relatives besides my parents and sister, and I don't really visit my parents, and I talk to them on the phone about once a month. I am in an industry where I can't work from home, and where things are still closed because of the pandemic. I have been laid off from my job until things reopen. The business is not gone and the industry will be back, but I've been unemployed since last March. I have done some freelancing, but my husband is the breadwinner right now. My sister, who hates my husband even though she's never had contact with him, came to my house after her eviction wanting to stay with us. She said my husband makes enough that we can't afford to have her stay rent-free and support her, and have her eat our food, use our internet, etc., and that we owe it to her. I can't believe her nerve, and I told her no, and said if she comes back, I'll call the police on her for trespassing. She called me an a-hole and a terrible sibling, and she wouldn't stop calling or texting me until I blocked her. She is staying at a shelter or outside if there are no beds available now. Am I really being too hard on her? Am I the a-hole and a bad sibling for refusing to take her in when she is homeless? Not the a-hole. Absolutely do not give in to this. Evictions take time as do divorce settlements. She knew this was happening and made no plans, got no job, and clearly made bad decisions. I don't believe for 1 second she agreed to a settlement that was only enough to pay legal fees. She spent all her money, or doesn't want to, wasted months she could have been getting employment at her own place, with the intention to leech off of someone she clearly doesn't even like. Ignore her. Just to provide clarity, they are not divorced yet. Legally separated and the divorce will be finalized soon, but it has not happened yet. Her insistence that you owe her despite her continued refusal to apologize makes you not the a-hole. She can deal with the consequences of her own actions in alienating you. Right there. Ignoring that her sister declined to speak to Opie over the spouse being a cop that she has never in her life met, she's still the a-hole. As soon as she said that she was owed anything, it's entirely appropriate to tell her to screw herself while she waits for a bed. I help people when I can because I feel like it's the right thing to do. But when someone feels entitled to my aid without treating me with even the most basic of common courtesies, I'm not interested. Not the a-hole. She cut off contact and killed the relationship, not you. She can't now expect you to live off the guy she cut you out over. That's not how life works. She now knows why you don't burn bridges you may have to cross later. You don't owe her anything, Opie. Not the a-hole. You owe her nothing. Also, based on her behavior, If you let her stay, you might not be able to kick her out without getting your own court order to evict her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for providing statement to police after brother stole from me? Backstory. My brother, 30 male, has been struggling with addiction since he was 15 years old. He still lives at home with my father. Him and I, 33 male, have always had a shaky relationship. My other two brothers and my mom want nothing to do with him. I placed an order paid in full on April 20 at Home Depot. On April 23, I was arrested. I was released on June 21. I went to Home Depot on June 22 for my order, and they informed me that my order was released to my younger brother on May 27. She even called my brother right in front of me, and I heard him confirm that he did pick it up. Luckily, I had recorded a majority of the convo he just had with a rep, so there was no denying it. He says he already sold the product. I told him I wanted my money. He agreed and said on Friday he would pay me. Friday comes and he says he's not going to give it to me anymore, that it's not his fault that Home Depot gave it to him. I told him that he had until Monday to give me the money, and he didn't say anything else. On Wednesday, I filed a chargeback with my bank, who said that they would not approve the chargeback unless a police report was filed, and I gave a statement. I told them I would think about it and get back to them. Later in the day, Home Depot calls me and says they want to avoid a chargeback, and they would refund me my money under the same circumstances the bank was asking. A few hours later, I got a call from a detective asking me for a statement, so I cooperated. The detective let me know that she first contacted my brother to give him the opportunity to just repay the money, but he refused to even give a statement. Now my dad is telling me that I am the a-hole for cooperating, that I know how it is to be in jail, and why would I want to send my little brother to such a place? I see it this way. I didn't ask him to steal my product. I just want my money back. And since he refused to give it to me, I simply did what I needed to do to protect my interests. Shortly after giving my statement, Home Depot notified me that my refund had been issued. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole for reporting to police, as it seems the only way to get your much-needed cash expediently, but I can't help but think there are about 1,000 things being left unsaid here. Yes, you're correct. There's a ton more to the story. I tried to hit all of the most relevant stuff though. He's been to rehab 4 to 5 times, but has always checked himself out after a few weeks. He's never been forced to make a lifestyle change because my dad is the biggest enabler on earth and provides my brother with a home, food, and most importantly, a safe and comfortable place to get and be high. All for free, of course. Info. Why did Home Depot give your stuff to your brother? I feel like most places would have put your stuff back on the shelves and refunded you after 2 weeks. Also, they are only supposed to release the items to you or someone who you specifically designate as an alternate. Well, both my brother and I are sellers on Amazon. I can only speak for myself. I spend $20,000+ a month on various products from Home Depot that I resell, and I think my brother does somewhere around the same. We do not work together, nor do we sell any of the same products. However, anytime either one of us places a new order, 95% of the time the order is placed through the same Pro Extra desk representative. I've been working with her for about 8 years now, and my brother maybe 4 years, and have built a great rapport with her. My brother took advantage of their relationship and her trust. He told her I had been arrested and said that I had called him asking him to help me out and pick up my product and fulfill my orders, which could not be further from the truth. It kind of was Home Depot's mistake, but I understand why they released the order to him. Not the a-hole. He committed a crime and should be punished for it. He's probably stolen hundreds of times before and thought that because you are family, you'd let him get away with it. Good on you for following through. Yes, thank you. He's literally stolen from me at least 10 times in the past 5 years. It even broke into my place last year. Took several and broke several other things. All because he gets high and paranoid. I've never done anything about it before because it's always been stuff worth no more than a couple $100. I'm sure he thought he could get away with it this time too, but I'm not willing to let several $1,000s go. I mean, he could have just asked for it, and I would have very willingly give it to him. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting to take care of my boyfriend's brother? My boyfriend and I have been together for just over a year. 4 months into our relationship, he brought me to meet his mom and brother who is autistic. He told me in advance about his brother, but I assumed he would be like my ex who was a little social awkward but lived a normal life. I was shocked when I met him, as it seemed he was at a 10-year-old's mental development. He had a meltdown during dinner, and I could see how stressed his mom was at having to deal with us. We talked after we drove back, and he told me his mom was planning on sending him to a group home, as she is getting older and would soon be no longer able to take care of him. I thought nothing more about this. But last week, his mom had a health scare, and she asked him to take his brother. Both his parents are in poor health at this point, so likely this will be semi-permanent. He told me the plan had changed, and he would have to take his brother in. I'm not sure why, because everyone is getting shots and the numbers are down. But he explained there's currently an insane 2-year waiting list for an entry to a group home. He wants me to take care of his brother as he works 12 hours a day out of the house. I work from home permanently, but I know my work would be disrupted if his brother had a meltdown. So I moved back to my old place with my roommates, as I had just moved out for 3 months and they hadn't found a new roommate yet. My boyfriend is mad because now he has no way of working and taking care of his brother, and thinks I'm being sympathetic to his problems. But I don't want to take care of him, especially when it would affect my work. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to care for my boyfriend's brother? Not the a-hole. I'm sympathetic to the fact that your boyfriend needs to figure out how to take care of his brother in short notice. But deciding, without any discussion, that you are going to watch him 12 hours a day is ridiculous. If it was an hour here and there, I would go you're the a-hole because sometimes you just have to bite a bullet. But 60 to 80 hours a week? No, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. If he wants to take in his brother, I admire him for it. However, it sounds like he was about to lay 100% of the responsibility on you. It is not your responsibility. You cannot work from home and take care of his brother too. It's not realistic, and most jobs wouldn't allow it. A lot of work-from-home jobs won't allow you to even have kids at home, and require proof of outside daycare to ensure there are no interruptions on the time they are paying you for. Your boyfriend needs to figure out how to take care of his brother on his own. Not the a-hole. It's annoying me that so many comments are she's not trying to do the job, when the absolute only correct response is, it's totally inappropriate and unacceptable for a man to expect his girlfriend to take over the care of a relative. We don't have to say because of her job or because she's not trained, but because the mere fact of it is insane. Edit. For the confused, he didn't ask. He told OP that he expected her to care for the brother. That's the deal breaker. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to give my brother my inheritance? I want to start this by saying this. I am not my parents' favorite child. As much as this might sound absurd or even biased, which might be, there's no other way to describe my family. I'm the youngest sibling, third child, and I have a sister, oldest, and a brother. My sister and my brother are just a bit older than me, at 23 and 21, while I just turned 18 last August. Throughout my life, I've always known my parents didn't particularly like me. They would treat my siblings a lot better, give them better clothes and gifts, and even gave them allowances. I was never treated badly, but I was never given anything like that. To be honest, I don't even remember the last time my parents gave me a gift for my birthday, or even congratulated me for that matter. This was the reason I started working as a part-timer since I turned 13. Washing cars, cutting grass, washing driveways, etc. That's how I managed to have some money should I need or buy things I wanted. For example, while my parents gave my siblings laptops once they got to high school, I needed to buy my own. Which is fine. They don't need to give me anything. I'm not entitled to it. But it made me very self-conscious about myself. Now to the main point. My grandfather was a very kind man, and when he passed away, he left in his will. I'm not really sure about how this works, as I know almost nothing about the law. Inheritances for his grandchildren, my siblings and myself, to finance our studies, college housing, etc. As I understand, this money would only be possible to be used after the person is 18. Now, my sister went to college and is almost graduating. My brother, however, has changed his course 4 times in the last 2 years, and every time he did that, there was a large cost associated with it, especially since he aimed for expensive colleges. Now he spent a large part of his inheritance, and probably won't be able to finance any course to the end. This is my main problem. My parents came to me and asked me to give my brother my part of the inheritance, as he has had that problem. Thing is, I'll be taking the college entrance exams in November/December, and by giving him this inheritance, I won't be able to do that, as I won't be able to afford college at all. I told them it was absurd, and it wasn't my fault that he wasted his part of the inheritance. Their answer was, he's your brother and he needs help. He'll help you pay for your studies once he graduates. That means I would need to postpone college for at least 4 to 5 years. I obviously don't want to do that and told my parents that it was my decision. As you would assume, they didn't take that lightly. They've taken to call me an ungrateful child and an a-hole for not thinking about family. I'm constantly being shunned in my house, to the point that it's making me feel like a trash of a person. Am I such a monster? Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. I strongly suspect that your brother wouldn't help you if, not when, he eventually graduates. The money was left to you for your education. You shouldn't feel any guilt for using it for its intended purpose. Yep, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. You'll never give Opie the money. Not stay home. This is the money you got and it's yours. You aren't obligated to contribute it to your brother. From the description of your post, I don't think he would help you finance your studies either. Help has to be bilateral, and it doesn't sound like he endeavored to help you throughout your life or defended you when you were in a bad position in comparison to him. You had to sustain yourself during your life and work hard in order to achieve what you have. You deserve to have a prepaid college and focus on school now. Your parents like any saying what you allocate the money for. Not stay home. And tell your parents if they do touch your part of the inheritance that is meant for your schooling, you'll take legal action against both them and your brother. I know that sounds harsh, but if they're treating you like crap and now want to screw you out of your money, fight back. This is very important to inform them of this before they take/steal it. Send your parents an email referring to your proposition to give your inheritance to your brother as he's responsibly squandered his own. You are formally telling them you do not give permission and will take any and all legal action if you find at 18 the penny is missing. They may take it anyway and claim you were happy to gift it. Ensure you have proof now that is not the case and scare them off first. Not stay home. Honestly, Opie should go visit a lawyer. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help pay for my half-brother's LVAD? Others won't help unless I do. I, male 34, come from a highly dysfunctional family. I didn't realize that when I was younger. I had 3 other siblings, biological and half. My dad, rest in peace, was not a good man. He got married right after my mom died and had my 2 half-brothers. My stepmother and I don't have the best relationship. Heck, I haven't seen her since I graduated high school. I only saw her at my father's funeral 7 years ago. My dad was mad at me for leaving home and not acting like a family member, when all he did was ignore me and my brother and spoil his younger boys. I was about to leave town, but my stepmother then called to invite me along with my older bio brother to attend my father's will hearing. We attended and the whole family was there, including my younger half-brothers who didn't even say condolences. My stepmom decided to do the will reading, and a lawyer was present. To my stepmom, the house had all of my father's personal possession. To my older half-brother Eric, my father's summer home and my father's classic car. To my youngest half-brother Morgan, $250,000 at a mechanic shop. Then to my biological older brother James and I, Dad's golf clubs, his old camera, cookbooks, and few shelves to keep them. James and I were stunned. James went hysteric yelling, saying someone had tampered with a will. But I replied that no, it's just Dad being a narcissistic a-hole punishing us for not playing family. James and I struggled a lot with finances for years, while our 2 half-siblings got luxury and sources of income. I stayed low contact for years after. I have decent aunts/uncles, but kept hearing about Eric's disease. I heard he lost his summer home and was struggling with money for medical bills. Then my uncle called recently saying Eric is very sick, and I needed to attend a family meeting to put money together for his LVAD. I said, why not his brother pay? And uncle said he refused to pay till all brothers contribute equally, which is fair. I asked, fair how? When James and I received nothing compared to my half-siblings. But he said my problem is with Dad, not them. I found the device is worth over $100,000, and I told him I'm not attending and won't help with anything. My dad's family got involved, saying Eric is suffering, and lost most his belongings and that I should help. James agreed to help, but I refused, which made me feel more pressured. They told me Morgan won't pay till all brothers contribute equally, and that by saying no, I was ruining it. Not today home. Tell Morgan he'll contribute to your entire inheritance, and to be fair, he can do the same. And in the effort of fairness, I'm sure Morgan gave OP $125,000 at half the value of the mechanics shop right after the will reading, right? Not stay home. Sounds like Morgan is trying to guilt and shame everyone to pay for his brother's treatment. Why would you bear any responsibility to pay for their medical treatment? Are they paying your bills? Have they ever? Where were they when you needed help? Sure, it would be kind and selfless to do so, but they are not asking for kindness, but expecting your payment and applying under pressure to get it. Not cool. Also, you are not a saint, but a human trying to support yourself in a tough world. Why should anyone but your immediate family expect you to support them financially? Also, I hate the response your issues with Dad. Well, when Dad's will was unfair, did they ever think to maybe try to make it right by sharing anything from their inheritance with you? Or let me guess, they took the goods and ran. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to co-sign for my brother's mortgage? My brother has never been great with money, and neither was his wife. They recently had their third child, and in a 2-bedroom apartment. It's been crazy, so they decided to purchase a home. They have a large dog, and renting is very difficult. Almost impossible with 3 children and a dog, so they've been stuck in that 2-bedroom for 4 years. My brother actually makes a pretty good amount of money, over $100,000, but is terrible at self-control, and they usually live paycheck to paycheck. So they saved 20% for a home and got an accepted offer for a duplex, but the bank won't lend to them because of his credit card debt. I don't know exactly how much, he said it was around $40,000, and his bad credit history. My parents aren't able to borrow more money from the bank as they have their own mortgage, and they are now all looking to me to sign for my brother's mortgage. I have an apartment but it's mostly paid off, so I could help them and maybe the banks would okay them then. But I'm scared my brother will stop paying or be late on his payments, but my credit will suffer. I work in an industry that does credit checks for employment, so a bad credit could affect my future job prospects. And I'm getting a mortgage myself as I don't plan on being in my apartment forever. He has begged me and asked our parents to beg me, but I don't trust his self-control when it comes to his money. My mother yelled at me that her grandchildren are all crammed together in a tiny apartment, when I could just lend my credit to them and I wouldn't even have to pay anything. But I feel like I'll end up responsible for the debt if it doesn't get paid. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Do not do this. Do not do this. No, no, no. Do not do this. You will end up owing money. Your brother won't pay. You won't be able to or won't be notified. The bank will repossess the house. It will be sold for less than the outstanding balance, and you will be on the hook for the remaining amount. If the house is destroyed or sells for far less than he owes, you can end up nearly paying for the entire amount of the house with nothing to show for it. This is just a bad idea all around. Not today, home. Anyone that gives you crap can co-sign for him instead. 100%. And mom saying Opie should just share their good credit is a huge a-hole. This can damage someone's entire future, and brother is clearly a bad risk. A bad, bad risk. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for threatening a lawsuit against my daughter-in-law? Hi, I am a grandma and I own a pretty good business in accounting. I'm not filthy rich, but I surely have a good amount of money and I've set aside a lot of money for my grandson for college, or for a house if he decides not to go to college. Every year for his birthday for the past 8 years, I've given him around $800 a year for Christmas and his birthday so he can enjoy himself. It's quite a hefty sum of money, but he's a great child, and I believe he deserves the money. He is 15 at the moment. Well, recently came forward and told me that for 5 years my daughter-in-law has stolen a lot of money from him, and some from my son as well. It turned out that she was spending a lot of money to herself. I decided to pretend that my grandson's money would be going towards college funds. It was usually through gift cards, so how would it even go towards a college in the first place? Not only this, but apparently he was barely even fed and didn't get basic necessities a lot of the time. 6 years ago, she broke up with my son and dated a man whose salary was well enough to make sure my grandson was getting what he needs. They weren't in poverty. I was furious. Not only was the money I gave my grandson to have fun being used by someone who I didn't even like in the first place, but my grandson was being neglected when they could have given him the basic necessities. I recently emailed my daughter-in-law, telling her how much she owes me and if she doesn't pay it back by the end of the year, I'm getting my lawyers involved. Well, she was furious and started using the fact that her boyfriend is a military sniper as a way to threaten me into dropping the charges. I told her I refused to do so and ignored her after that, knowing if she continued to threaten me, all she's doing is incriminating herself. My other son, who is also an employee of mine, said I was being too harsh on her and should have just let it go, and that I already have enough money as is to pay him back. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add. Before I get asked about this, yes, CPS was involved. There's already a case against her, but this is out of CPS realm entirely. Grandson lives with my son already, but official custody arrangements haven't been given out yet, and they aren't divorced. If she is bragging about him being a military sniper, I can guarantee you that he is in fact not a military sniper. Edit. I'm so sorry, I forgot to tell you that you are 100% not a day-hole. Your intentions are to keep your grandson safe. Definitely speak to a lawyer to know what rights you may or may not have. Could a daughter-in-law and her military sniper boyfriend get in trouble for her threats? If he is in the military, that seems like something they would take issue with. Just a quick side note. Stop sending literally any money or gift cards to your grandson. Instead, just put money in an account for him and let him know. He's old enough to understand and value this. If you do get him a gift, make it a physical gift and not money/gift card. As for the money that was already taken, it might be difficult to get any of that back without documentation. If you have a lawyer, it's worth a conversation though. See what he or she thinks of it. I've stopped already. I plan on putting all future funds in his college savings account until he's 18. Any gifts from now on will be clothing, or me buying things for him while he is right there with me so he can pick out what he wants. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for never buying gifts for my ex's stepkids? Ex and I have 2 kids together. Our daughter is 15 and our son is 13. Our breakup was pretty nasty, and custody is pretty complicated ever since. Ex decided without telling me that he wanted to be a stay-at-home dad and quit his job after the birth of our daughter. It was a rocky time for us, but I had no issue with him staying home. He said he would talk to me first in the future and we moved on. But he was an awful stay-at-home parent. He didn't cook or clean, refused to go back to work, and would leave all the general chores to me. He took decent care of the kids, and that was the most important thing. It was just how little he invested into anything else. Then I found out he was only married to me because of my success and paycheck, so I divorced him. At first he was supposed to get equal custody, but then the judge found out he was lying about his ability to get a job so he could get child and spousal support, which he didn't qualify for the latter anyway. But the former would be based on his income, and he did have a good job after I kicked him out, so it wasn't possible. Anyway, I ended up with primary and he ended up with every other weekend, which increased after he realized I wasn't going to support him. He got married 5 years ago. His wife has 5 of her own kids, but my kids get along okay-ish with them. They feel like they don't really have much in common with them, and they complain about the cramped space in their dads, but no huge problem with anyone. I never bought for stepkids. I always felt it was Ex's responsibility to do it with our kids. He always complained and I ignored it. But in the last year and a half, it's been more and more complaints. Right before the start of everything shutting down, I got my kids a Switch each so they could play games easier. Both them and I love the game. Then I got a family console for the new gen last year, though I only got that in June of this year. Ex knows about the stuff I have bought, and he is livid that I buy the stuff for our kids, but never give gifts to his stepkids. Or as he put it, buy gifts from our kids to his stepkids. He thinks it should be my job, since it would be extra gifts and more money spent on his stepkids, who have nobody but him and his wife who care. It's caused a lot more tension of late. I feel like this is just him trying to use me again. But these are kids, so I wonder, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your ex is being ridiculous. It's not your responsibility to buy anything for stepkids. Not the a-hole. You can't demand that you'll buy them stuff. It's not your liability to sustain the stepkids. You don't have a familial affiliation with them whatsoever. It sounds like your ex-husband is jealous of the things you can provide for your kids because of your lucrative income and only 2 kids. Maybe it feels like there is an expectation of him to buy those things too. They always keep them here, with the exception of friends' houses. I don't like the idea of their kids seeing what mine have and making them jealous, but I also don't want anyone there trying to keep them. Not today, home. You are not responsible for anyone but your own kids. How is the new wife with you? Is that relationship okay? Nope. At one time it was okay at first. Then after they got married, a fight over Christmas came up, and things have not been okay since. Basically, we have this thing in our city where they do a Christmas village, You can test out some of the upcoming cool stuff, but you need to pay. They wanted me to pay for them to go as a family because I brought my kids. She expected I would say yes. It never got over that I didn't.